up? How's it going?
Good. I'm a little sweaty. Even though the weather's amazing, I don't know why I'm sweating.
Yeah, I'm from up north, but I have adjusted to this southern way. Like if it goes 10 degrees below 80, I'm like, oh, let me put on an extra layer.
Dude, that's funny because now that I think about it, I don't think I've ever not seen you in like a just kind of covered up.
Yeah.
Like maybe because it was typically in an office.
No,
I
I'm
mean,
always pretty modest and weird about it.
is
But I
that
was raised Islamic.
so is that like a so
It's like
it's a
it's like in me no matter how hard I try. When I do have moments where I wear skin exposed, I feel
do you
so
mind if I have a beer?
uncomfortable.
Is that okay?
No,
Okay.
no,
Yeah, yeah.
whatever you do.
Okay.
I will not. And I am not in
Yeah.
AA.
No.
So,
So sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
no. I don't really know what we were talking about.
Well, we were just discussing the fact that you're typically pretty modest because you're
Oh yeah,
born,
yeah,
you're
like
raised
to an extreme. So an office
Muslim.
setting is perfect for me because I'm typically covered. And it's funny because a lot of times when I work with male clients, I'll be matching their shirts. It's really hilarious.
So is it?
I am completely hetero. I prefer to be
No,
covered
no, it's not
completely.
that.
Just like
It's. I guess what I'm trying to understand is. So wait, cool. So people who don't know, let me introduce you. This is Mary. Mary, what's your last name?
hello. I am a Smith. I'm a Mary Smith.
So what you're saying is you've never had a trouble getting a job over the phone ever.
I actually get laughed at when I pay my electric bill or any company I have to call into. It's almost like I give my middle initial on purpose. When I came to the Tampa Bay area, I Googled how many Mary Smiths were here. There's like 25,000. I was like, yeah, I think if I don't use my middle initial, that will be to my disadvantage. So,
Isn't that the most common name in like North America, Smith?
believe it or not, I married into the Smith family. I
Okay.
am a Hovansian.
Oh.
I have a Armenian last name that's really long and difficult, 9 letters to say.
So are you Armenian? Is that
I'm
like your
half Armenian,
background?
half Sicilian, so that's background.
So straight American.
First generation, as a
Yeah.
matter of fact.
Really?
Both
Okay.
parents
Wow.
are from different countries, which is kind of cool.
When did they get here?
In their teens, met up with one another at some camp thing and stayed speaking to one another completely from different backgrounds. My father being Islamic, my mother not. She was Sicilian Catholic, so it was really bizarre for them to be together and kind of sneaky and faux pas for the time. And
Even now, maybe, right? I mean, post 9/11.
I mean, Muslims are
maybe not
pretty
now.
liberal these days,
Yeah.
especially if you
Actually,
get into more like Sunni Muslims are a little less liberal, more on the extreme side. Shiites are a little bit more open minded. So that's
Yeah.
when you'll see like the mixing.
And you talk. I
Culturally,
mean, when you
so.
say extreme, I mean, obviously there's extremists, but you mean more conservative side? Is the Sunni
Absolutely.
side? Okay.
Yeah, much like we have the left and the right.
Yeah,
It
okay.
exists in religion as well as politics.
That's such
so
a
I feel
basic
like
understanding that I'm not sure a lot of Americans know. Hey, just quick understanding. Just like Catholicism, there's different like Orthodox or whatever.
yeah. Well,
It's the
I think
same.
it's really important to understand. And I think Muslims get a bad rap and they feel like a lot of times in this country, they either have to have it in your face or hide, one of the two. There's no happy medium with being Islamic in this country, being okay with it. I think, especially post 9/11. I mean, 9/11 changed everything for Islamics in America. So it was
Yeah.
pretty much like we hate black people and now we hate brown Arabic people too. I mean,
Even the
lucky
ones
for
that
me.
aren't like, even like Sikhs. I think at the time in like New York, particularly, were getting like called terrorists, and they're like, we're Sikhs. We're
Yeah,
completely
anything brown,
yeah.
not white. And for me,
Ugh.
it's so nice because I get the half Sicilian side, so I don't really have the olive skin. I get the more fair skin and the freckles, so I can pass for like quite a few things. It's really kind of fun when I like put other or
Yeah, I was gonna say. So,
it's
what
fun.
if someone asks, like, what is your, they don't ask you if you're Sicilian slash Arabic or Armenian. I'm sorry. So, what do you put? Just other?
Well, it's funny because it's really super defined, right? So you're either this or that. That's
Yeah.
it. Like
So, you know
the
what's
gray area.
okay? Can you
is
explain this to
so
me?
minimal.
My wife, and I mean, I've asked multiple people, why is it when you fill out an application or anything, at least I do as a Hispanic or Mexican American, Puerto Rican, whatever, it says, are you Hispanic? Yes or no? And then it's like, what's your race? And then it's like, what's your ethnicity? And it's like, does that make sense?
Isn't it like a screwball of a question, right? And if you're mixed with one thing, then what do you put?
well,
Like
it's
you
almost seems
can't.
redundant. It's like, are you of Hispanic, whatever? Yes. And then it's like, are you Mexican? It's like, or Puerto Rican. Like, wait, what? It just
Do you
it's
not
weird.
understand like the different types of Hispanic folks that
Yeah,
exist? It's almost like because we
yeah,
misunderstand, we're going to group you. And I think
yeah.
that's what the census works to absolve. It just
Yes.
does such a terrible job at it because
Dude,
people are
that's a good
afraid.
point, right? They're like, okay, so are you one of the Hispanics? Like
Isn't it the same with
Spain?
gender though,
And
right?
yeah, or
Because
then
we're
it's
so
like,
confused
well,
about
then
gender
it's
right
like,
now
dude,
too.
yeah,
Like, what do we
yeah.
call people? Is it other? We don't say male, female, or other anymore. Now we say, like binary, non-binary. We have all these terms,
Yeah.
X instead of A or E on the. It's different now.
No, yeah.
I mean, as much as I love it, it confuses folks, and I think that's what I love the very
I
most is that they
think,
don't get to be traditional and the same as they've always been.
mhm.
They're getting the spice of life is getting forced on them. They're not able to just stay in their little
Yeah.
box and think this is how you're supposed to do things and this is standard.
Well, I think would you say like getting the spice of life? I think, I'm not gonna say it's freedom, but that's something really cool. I enjoy is the fact that at the end of the day, I truly feel that in America, at least you can't tell me anything. I can do whatever I want and can be whatever I want. So like that idea, but I also wonder like when you talk about the fluidity, I guess, is that a okay word of gender or just
Yeah, I think so.
the discussions that are going
Yeah.
on? I think some of it's so hard to generalize. 'Cause you
Yeah.
generalize like, okay, this
Well, I
particular
think we've
situation.
determined
Yeah.
we can.
Yeah. Well,
Because
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
when you do that, doesn't it make someone feel like garbage at
Well,
the end of the
I'm
day?
going exactly. Well, so my whole point is not only that does it make someone feel bad, but it's also the idea that, let's say I'm thinking, okay, if, the bathroom thing, which I think, yeah, if you obviously are a woman, identify as a woman, this is how you live your life, you're living your life, that makes sense. But, what does that mean, right? Who decides that? And so I
Exactly.
think while I'm completely on board with the idea that a woman, a transgendered man or woman, whatever, they can go to the bathroom that they're most comfortable with, but also like how do you regulate something like that, right? So how do you just go, it's okay to go wherever you want, which like I've been in New York a bunch of times. My brother-in-law lives there. It's cool kind of actually go to the bathroom with, my wife, and it's just like, oh, it's like, hey, this is not a big deal. Like everyone
Right.
goes to the bathroom.
Right.
It's a different scenario than, some of these other situations. But I think when we talk about like, gender and things like that, you can be what you want, but there are specific situations I think we have to just not generalize it all. So like you talk about sprinkling. Sprinkling's cool, but let's see where those sprinkles land and make sure that it fits that particular. Does that make sense?
Well, sprinkling should never cross a line where someone feels uncomfortable being who they are because someone is
Yeah.
who they are. So I think the first step is that we identify exactly who folks are and we get it all on the table. What are all these options that are available that people are in?
What are they?
I'm really disappointed that our president chose to cancel diversity training and a lot of corporations and call it anti-American even that like we would learn about one another that we wouldn't have to have a friend of a certain race just to know something about one another.
Yeah.
It's really kind of disturbing that we would continue to put people into containers and want to tell them what they are and
Yeah.
like
I mean,
not just let them come to grips with it with respect to one another. I don't think
but
those
do you
folks are
think,
asking to disrespect
I
other
agree.
folks. And I think
No.
if they understood the line that people had and people were more honest about their feelings about it and they weren't so in a box about
Mhm.
it and stifled, I think it'd be different. I think
I
we'd
agree
accept
100%.
things a
Like
lot better.
the
We could draw
idea,
lines.
yeah, the idea that I can go to a place and learn about, people that I see every day, right? People that for the most part, we spend more time with them than we do our families, right? We're at the office at work, 8, 9 hours a day, whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
So like, of course it makes sense. I guess my question, if I was running a business, like, is that where you learn about your coworkers, right? Like in the office hours. Like I'm not sure. Like if I'm there, like I'm in sales, right? If I'm told, hey, twice a week you got to go to these trainings for an hour and a half, I'd be like, I'm not here. I hang out with my coworkers, but I'm really here to make money. And I say that as someone right now who has a job where the team's great, that I really enjoy it, but I live my life between the hours of when I'm not at work. Like I'm doing the things I enjoy. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So to me, well, I enjoy that and I love culture. It's super, like you said, like it's super important to not only just understand your team, but understand like who they are as people, and especially if they're different ethnicities and backgrounds. Like I had no idea you're Armenian. That's amazing. Like to me, I'm like, holy crap, we can talk about the Armenian genocide, these things that I've always had
Oh my
questions about.
gosh.
Yeah, I
Oh,
mean, but my point is like, yeah,
hours.
well, no, and see, so my point is like, I never knew that,
Yeah.
but as someone who is literally would rather spend their time like with my family or doing this stuff, right? I would be hard pressed to stay at a place that was like, hey, you have to do this.
Yeah.
Just because I'm like, look, I get it.
Yeah.
It's important. And maybe it's easier for me to say as someone who's dark,
Right.
but also like it's a job.
Yeah.
It's, you know what I mean? It's like, to me, it's a job. And some people love their job more than others, and I just think, yeah, that's why like when someone says, I'm like, man, like, I don't need this. Like, I'm here to make money to support my dreams. You know what I mean? Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
yeah. I think for me, it's just always been such a passion that I love to see it brought into the workplace. When I was younger, I grew up on the east side of Detroit for
How
the
was
most
that, dude? Like,
part.
okay, can
When
you
you
break
grow
that
up in
down?
the hood and you're Islamic, it is not
Well, yeah.
friendly.
So
It's
wait, can
not
you explain
the
the?
nicest place in the world to be. I come from a background where my father asked me to cover consistently. I didn't
Mhm.
know what it was like to wear things that weren't to my ankles.
Yeah.
It was just more of a moral requirement than anything. It wasn't like, this is your religion and jammed down my throat. For me, it was pitched to me as, do you want someone to look at you in a gross way when you're out in public? And when you look at the general population of young men that are out here and older men that are out here, you get like this almost healthy fear at a really young age of like exposing yourself.
Mhm.
And honestly,
Healthy and I don't know. Again, I'm a man. I don't understand what that means.
well, I
Like
mean,
a
like,
respect of like that. Some
yeah.
people are not nice people.
Well, yeah, and
Yeah.
just like dirty in the mind, and it's something that you can either provoke or just have somebody, you force
Mm-hmm.
someone to look at what you force them to look at by what you're showing them. So for me, it was almost a way of like, this is how you respect yourself. And you don't allow people to degrade that. And you just cover for the purpose of morality. You
Yeah.
want someone to focus here on your eyes because there's a massive
Yeah.
brain behind it.
I was just gonna
You know
say,
what I mean?
focus on
Like,
like the person, not the
yeah,
physical.
absolutely. I
It's like,
love
yeah,
that.
it's like a book, like most books, who cares about the cover? So it's like really focused. So cover up the good stuff,
It's
if you
been
will.
able to
Yeah.
get me, I think, in different places in life, in different categories, almost in different spaces, because I can blend a little bit more. I don't have to be like that lipstick female that comes around and is looking like pristine with the makeup and good all the time.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like a luxury to put that sort of stuff on, and it should not be the everyday look to what a human being is. You should not have to alter your exterior so much that it's a facade
How
almost.
long do
So
you think it takes the average woman to get dressed?
it makes me sweat to think about it. Like, I just don't even
Yeah.
know. Like, when I watch my daughter, I have a
Mm-hmm.
diva and I have a tomboy. So they're like boop, total ends of the spectrum, which is
Sounds like
hilarious.
sounds like
It's
my little furry friends we had out there, right? The calm one, and yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, I see that. And I feel like it's a blessing and a curse to have both ends of the spectrum because my diva child will spend you know, 30 minutes getting her hair right in a particular space. She'll come out and she'll be upset because she spent all that time and it hasn't worked. And she's in this phase where she's just doing a lot of comparative to what she has in life as to others. And I think it's what every single human goes through, male
Yeah.
or female. And it's just because what you're looking at is made to be beautiful.
Yeah.
It's
Do
got
you,
that facade
are you
going.
talking like? I mean, again, I don't have any
Oh, our
kids,
media,
but
really our
are your
media.
kids on like? Do they have like a cell phone? I don't know how they do. Are they in
Oh,
cell
they're
phones?
with it. I
Okay.
actually have to limit as much as I feel like technology is healthy for them because it gives them certain skills in terms of using different devices. I
Yeah.
mean, they're versed in
Dude,
laptops,
yeah, like
iPads, Androids, Apple
my mom
technology,
and
like
brother still call
Linux.
me.
I mean, like,
That's
I
amazing.
can list
Jeez.
off operating systems, devices, like both hardware and software. They're versed because of what I put in front of them, and I don't limit that anything other than like time frames because
Yeah.
I feel like it gets to a point where it's like rotting their brains and they're not doing
How
anything
long do
else.
you
But
give them?
they get between 7 and 8 o'clock at night.
Nice.
And they're
It's like
on Duo
playtime,
with
right?
friends the
Isn't that like
majority of the
playtime?
time. So yeah, I mean,
Yeah. I
at
remember as a
that
kid,
point,
like, we could only go outside for, hey, a couple hours, an hour and a half or whatever. So to me, it's like in moderation. That seems pretty like smart. I mean,
yeah,
the
well, especially
ideal,
during
yeah.
COVID too, because I'm
Jeez.
doing this like I work in the tech field and I'm essentially training techs or non-techie people, sometimes if I get lucky, techie people on software that they've just purchased. It's a massive 3-month project. I have to establish a
Yep.
relationship and a rapport with somebody for a 3-month period of time, which is like at that point, for some, it's like family.
Yeah.
I'm learning about your ups and downs, your health issues in 3 months. I mean, I know the people.
Yeah.
And I'm doing that side by side with remedial learning virtual students. So it is like,
So it gives you the patience for it or the understanding, I guess.
yeah, I think so. So I think more than anything, the greater lesson here is that we don't force ourselves to be in situations that are super uncomfortable, especially for a long period of time.
Mm.
Why would we?
Do you do that? Do you
You know
force
what I mean?
yourself for uncomfortable?
I think I kind of
So
do.
what's uncomfortable for you? Like what's
Um,
a, what's I'm not gonna say a regular thing, but what was a thing that typically made you uncomfortable? Like I'm gonna do it. Are uncomfortable, and you're like I'm gonna do it today.
I continuously put myself in uncomfortable positions, like both publicly doing this. I was like, I have to expose myself to something
Yeah,
that I would not typically do. If any other
yeah,
person asked me to do this, I don't think I would be able to be as vulnerable as I'm trying to be right now.
yeah.
I'm breaking my like I need to be anxiety ridden and stay in the house and worry about things that don't matter. I'm just kind
Has
of like
that has
going
that
for it.
has that been like the idea that you know not be? I'm not gonna say not be honest, but just gonna hide back. Like what is that? Is that from the again
Oh,
the
it's
kind of
so
the way you're
deep.
raised with like
Yeah, I think
yeah?
it's
Because you
just
said
so deeply
Detroit, and
ingrained.
and by the way, what I don't know much about Detroit. I think all I know is like the GM building is somewhere downtown, and then 8 Mile is where Eminem's from. Like, what is the East Side? Like, what is that like? Is it like a melting pot? Is it more of a what area is that
Well,
like?
I think it used to have I know for a fact it used to have a bunch of steel mills and factories that supplied the auto industry. And
Yeah.
as the auto industry went under, it was the very first part of the downtown city that was affected really badly. I mean, like factories that used to employ thousands of people, just doors shut.
Damn.
The worst part is that for the longest period of time, we kept getting one corrupt mayor after another corrupt mayor. So it was like
Oh
not
yeah.
only did our industries that were pertinent to people's survival shutting down, but we also had such corrupt politicians that it was just suffering. Like I seriously did not understand the oppression of the city until I left it. Every time I traveled away from Detroit, I was like, this is amazing. Like the world is actually a place where people aren't crummy to one
Dude.
another. Like
Yeah.
people actually would want to put you onto something because they're not crabs in a bucket so hungry to just get whatever that they'll take it from anybody. Like I remember being trained as a kid riding city buses to not look people in the
Yeah.
eyes. You put
Yeah.
your head down. I remember walking down streets when I was younger, looking down the street, seeing a house on fire, seeing a car on fire, and continuing to walk past because
Because it's
you don't
just
do
yeah.
anything where I'm from. You
Yeah.
don't involve yourself with what's
How
happening.
did your parents end up in Detroit? Do you know that? Because
They
was it the
came to
auto
Delray.
industry?
It was just a big place for immigrants
Hmm.
to come if you couldn't afford to be in New York or you couldn't afford to be in some big major city. Detroit was the next place. Delray was
It
a
used to
cultural
be.
mecca of
Yeah.
so many Russian, Polish, like tons.
Detroit used to be, from what I read and understood, it used to be like one of the wealthiest cities in the world.
It's amazing.
Yeah,
They're
like
down.
I
They're
don't know what decade, but it was because of the car industry. I mean, because the middle class was so strong, and
yeah.
once the industry moved
Shortly
out,
after World War II, things were beginning to get really good in the city. I remember awesome pictures of the Hudson building downtown. My grandma telling me it was like a pleasure to ride the city bus. So when she's telling me these stories, I'm like, this
it was
lady
just
is
modern.
crazy.
Yeah,
Like she's talking, it's a pleasure. Like I smelled a dude for like 20 blocks. Like that was not my pleasure. No, I'm good.
oh,
So
grandma,
yeah, it's a totally different time there. And it's funny because I keep going back every year, every couple of years, because I'm really
is it on the
interested
up? Right, I
in
heard there's a
seeing the
tech
growth.
boon, a little tech hub there now. Am I
I'm
wrong?
What I see is a lot of gentrification, which is tough to see.
Yeah,
Um, Especially because it has the ability to just drive like really amazing people away from places, along with the yuck too. But I mean, people have to have places to go. So what I don't like is that it's for the people that won't go, it's forced them to be in a really awkward looking place now because now it looks amazing
But
and they don't. You know what I mean? Like,
no, but how much has their property? I mean, it's got to be worth a ton if they can, right? I mean, because
oh
isn't the
yeah,
thing
the
that gets them
city
out of there is
itself, they
the
brought
taxes, right? Or
all the
something?
sports downtown.
Yeah. See,
And
that's,
they
yeah.
robbed me for years as a single person with
Oh,
no
yeah.
children and I lived in the city. I would pay city taxes where I worked in my paycheck and I would pay them where I lived. They would double whammy.
Holy
So
shit.
it was very hard to see all the corruption there for a lot of years. I got sick of being a tax-paying citizen in a city where my taxes are going to people that are making strippers go
Getting
missing.
arrested.
You know
Yeah.
what I
Oh, my
mean?
God.
Like
Jesus.
Kwame Kilpatrick got brought up on like 14 different federal perjury charges. Like
Whoa. Are
14
you
federal
serious?
perjury charges, guy.
Yeah.
Are you serious?
I knew Detroit was corrupt. I know there's other cities like Chicago. I'm not saying now, but they tend to have just this long standing.
It just
Yeah.
stinks. You
It's
know what I
just
mean?
regularly.
I pretty much grew up thinking as certain parts of Detroit looking like Gotham City, like apocalyptic
Oh,
almost. Like
shit.
when you go to the east side, it's funny now because I left about a decade ago. And when I left, there were so many buildings at night that you could go past and just see like little lights flicking up within the windows that were broken out. And there was literally just crawling with fiends, just like people that had taken over abandoned structures that were just posted up in them. All of those have pretty much been knocked down. Like when I go back home, it's all green grass in places. So it's
Like former blocks.
insane.
Former blocks.
Insane.
So what
Blocks just demolished that are now like wide open green spaces. You're seeing deer. My friend takes pictures of deer and sends them to me on the southwest side of Detroit, which is like primarily Hispanic folks. They're not, they're like deer.
I saw this documentary. It was like one of those Vice things, right? Where it talks about like the city services after Detroit went bankrupt and they got through the whole bankruptcy court, like I don't know what year, like 5, 10 years ago, whatever it was, that essentially they shrunk the city limits, meaning they also like all the city services like water, trash. So they were like walking around Detroit at these blocks where there's a house left. It's like, yeah, come the next whatever months when the city shrinks, like they'll have no trash, water will be shut off because they're the only house for X number of blocks.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so like I would assume if it's all shrunken down, is that center part now better? Like, if is the city itself on some sort of phoenix rise, or is it?
I think it has a lot of potential to be. I haven't spent a great amount of time there to get to see the quality of people that
Yeah.
are in a place because I think that really defines like how a place stands up and represents or if they don't. I know for a large period of time, a majority of people that inhabited the city did not pay taxes. They weren't working for the city. They were living in the city and not paying their taxes for their home or wherever they were staying at the time. They weren't homeowners, a majority of them. So I get the impression now that at least the city has a set of folks that are paying taxes so they can draw on those funds. All the sports have been brought down there. The vibe that I got the last time we were there,
It's crazy. They have all the sports teams. I don't know if
it's
you watch. They have
nuts.
all of them.
It's nuts.
All of them. I'm
It-
like,
for
how
me,
can a city
it's
that's bankrupt
such
and quote unquote dying have every whatever that is?
it's such a pleasure.
It's
to
awesome,
see
dude.
all of it and
Are you
all
a
of
big
it
sports,
across.
like-
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's really hard because I love hockey. I'm such a wingnut. I love the Detroit Pistons. Like the bad boys in the '80s were my heroes. Like I remember Isaiah Thomas to me just being like, oh, that's the man. For me, like I loved watching college sports. I watched Magic Johnson come up. So
That's sick.
yeah, I love sports.
So how did you get into sports? Because it sounds again like you had a what we call like as someone who's Catholic. I wasn't raised that traditional Catholic, but I know they can get pretty strict. As someone who was raised more on the more conservative, strict side, were you able to play sports? How?
I watched everything from the sidelines. I
Okay.
did not really get involved in much of anything. And I think it's because a lot of it had to do with control from my father. Like, this is not what females perform. This is something that you'll just, always be a spectator of. I think that's why I'm so involved with sports now. My father passed like 3 years ago. And
So
I
for
think,
people who don't know, we play softball. That
Yes,
was how we really connected.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Shout out community brand softball team.
yeah, so I think Now it's like a lot of things that I never did when I was younger. I'm like celebrating doing,
Yeah.
and I have two females. What better to show? Like, there are extreme levels to everything in life. Here's this end. Here's this end. Look at your personalities, even. They're both ends of the spectrum. Do we see how crazy
Yeah.
people could be in life
Yeah.
and how we have to have certain levels of acceptance, not a tolerance, an acceptance. That means that you're okay with someone being exactly opposite with you. And your inner self doesn't change
Yeah.
because they are who they are.
Dude, I agree with that
That is
100%.
like the we need to tolerate one another is the thing that it's just not. We need to do
It seems
more.
lazy.
It's
And
almost demoralized. You
well,
you like take a human and you say, I'm gonna call you whatever I want. I'm gonna make you whatever I want, and you're gonna be okay with
you
that.
know my mindset on that, because I think what you're saying, it makes sense. Like obviously, like, if someone, whether it's gender or whatever, even if you don't agree with it, like my opinion as an American is like, too bad. Like it's
That's why we're
America.
here. That's
So
why everyone's
yeah,
here. We
yeah,
once upon a time called people to come here from
yeah.
other nations. We used to love that. We used to brag about how
Well,
we
we
were a
did. You see,
melting pot.
well,
Like,
we didn't. We didn't. I mean, look.
what we did is
Yeah,
mislegislate things and not have our butts covered for loopholes that
yeah.
people that come here from other
But
countries can exploit.
but back in the
Like,
day, it was pretty. There was some corruption, and there was. It's just hard. I can't. It's hard for me to think that like now we're worse off than we were when we started. That being said, I'm not saying we're better now than we were a decade ago, 2 decades
no, I feel like
ago.
we
Yeah,
probably are treading water, if
yeah.
anything. I feel like our current leadership
Oh,
could
did
have
you watch the
steered
debate
us.
yesterday?
Let me tell you, it was
Yeah.
the first presidential debate I've ever watched, and I
Hmm.
feel almost embarrassed to say
No,
that.
that's
But
okay.
I
Yeah,
feel
I've only
like
watched like three, so it's not
I
like a
don't
big deal.
I think because of the candidates we've had in the past, we've been really spoiled. Because I think though we had to pick through some really rotten
Hmm.
choices, they had some good platforms to stand on. I think right now we are in a place of really weird. I
Yeah.
watched that debate. I felt like I was watching a 2-year-old in a grown man body.
Yeah,
It was
it was cringy. I thought.
I
Have
felt
you seen that
awkward
show?
about
You know what?
23
Oh,
times.
dude,
Like,
like I literally looked
uh,
away. I
is this
yeah,
happening? Like,
I
partner,
yep.
I love
It
you. What's
was
going on?
No, it was terrible. It was almost like hilarious in terms of how I don't know what I expected. I expected some sort of show. I didn't expect that. But when it was all said and done, I was like, all this shows me is like whoever you vote for, it doesn't matter. They're all clowns. They're clowns. And
Aren't they
yeah,
performers to an
yeah.
extent?
Well,
Don't you
that's what I'm
have to
saying.
be? I mean, like,
Exactly. It's a clown show.
and with a
Yeah,
performance, are we
yeah.
picking the best of the performers? I don't even know that our political parties have things to stand for anymore. I'm losing the sight of that because I think they are, and they're not staying
Well, I
focused
think that there's
on what
generations.
makes them
Yeah.
their particular party. And
Well,
that's confusing to our youth because our youth needs direction on where to go with
well,
politics.
like I agree with that. Parties are, when you say they need to stand on, like I'm not going to push back and say that they don't have to stand for something, right? Every party should, but I also think that like the fluidity of a party is important.
Mhm.
I think that like whether you're socially conservative or socially very liberal or fiscally conservative and fiscally very whatever it is, like the idea is right now what yesterday showed me is like it doesn't even matter,
Mhm.
right? Like what matters is the checks and balances of our system,
Right.
because even if these guys who head up this one branch, you got 2/3 of it, and people can argue about the Supreme Court, but look, man, there's checks and balances, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think
So like
I
even
think we're
though
losing
yeah
sight of those though a
yeah
lot of times. It's
well,
like,
we focus on this show, this
yeah.
clown show, and
Yeah.
I don't mean that disrespectful. I mean that like, look, dude, like they're clowns to put on a fucking performance, right?
Yeah.
I don't know who said what was true, and I know I could fact check it, but like, look, man, all I know for sure is
Isn't it
that
crummy that that's what they're going to spend the next
yeah.
week doing? Is
Oh,
like just
yeah.
it to me it's like a pissing
But you
contest.
know
It
what,
was
dude?
so
But can I ask you a
inappropriate
question?
in a professional
Oh
setting.
yeah.
So
Would you ever act like
a
that? Would you
public
ever act like that?
professional setting. I'd like to think I have the most amazing switch in the world because when I'm in the hood, boop, the hood
Yeah.
switch goes on. When I'm in the professional world, boop,
But you know what, dude?
you
Yeah.
have to. You have to like
But can you
read
agree?
your audience. You have to know what you're
But can you
saying.
agree that I think that even if you have a completely different mindset, I don't know how old you are, but you're not as old as they are. I like to think that when I talk to people who are a little bit younger, they're more willing to at least for a moment have a real conversation, just for a
Yeah.
second,
Yeah.
and get past that. Well, that's what I believe. It's like, yeah, yeah, I know what you believe. We all know what we believe. We know what we stand for.
Yeah.
But like, like I feel like yesterday showed me like maybe it's a generational thing, but I have I feel positive thinking that having you on the podcast, having everyone on the podcast who comes from different backgrounds, people want to have a real conversation. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And
I
yes,
think
yeah,
doesn't it take a layer of listening?
exactly.
I mean, are
Yeah.
we ready to listen? I think a majority of us are so freaking arrogant that we're like, no, what I say needs to be heard. No, what I say. That we don't even know how to listen. I think I just know how to listen incredibly well because I've been an educator for like 15 plus
Mhm.
years. I can immediately identify like an area of need in a student like this. I have the ability to work with really discouraged, angry people and have them at least not be that way with me because I build a level of respect. It's just you're comfortable with you, so you can push that outward.
You're
I
so
think a lot
positive,
of
which is kind of
times
nice. Like you're,
people,
yeah, you're where you came from. I'm not gonna sit here and say I know exactly, but I can understand a little bit because I came from, not not the picket fences of, grew up in the projects kind of thing, welfare. I turned that into this kind of like I'm not gonna say aggressive energy, but this go get it.
you
Whereas,
have
yeah,
to. Oh my
but
gosh, you
yours
have
for
to.
whatever
My
reason,
hustle's
yeah,
hustle
you,
has a
but
hustle.
it's
Like I
so
just
sweet and genuine. Like, but I'm saying because I know you tutoring, and I know you're like I can do a business to this, I can do this, and like you're so energetic. But like what I noticed most about you first was like it's so genuinely, it just seems nice.
yeah.
Even though I know you're from Detroit, which I know your
Well,
heart has.
isn't that what's lacking though? I mean, like when
Yeah.
it comes down to it, I have seen really hard looking men be super soft.
Yeah.
Isn't it just in like what it takes to get someone to be that way? I think a majority of the people that are super positive have been through stuff that's so awful that what they're going through now couldn't possibly be as worse as what they've been
Mm-hmm.
through. I think that motivation is a fire I go to sleep with, so it burns while I sleep. So I don't completely feel rested. And it almost feels like I fought a battle all night sometimes. But then I get up and I'm just like ready. I can be exhausted, but I'm in a mode where it's almost survival all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not freaking out.
Dude, that's
Like
how.
it's
Yeah.
survival all the time. And I'm like,
My wife.
just
Yeah.
happy to be surviving, man. I'm just
Dude, that's
happy
awesome.
to be
Yeah,
surviving. Like,
like one of my mottos in life is like it could be worse no matter what happens as long as I'm not
oh,
dead.
yeah.
And even if I'm dead and I can somehow see that I'm dead, I'm like, well, at least my family's not dead, or at least my
Yeah.
wife, or maybe it could always be worse is my point,
Yeah.
right? And so like when you say you wake up and you're like, well, I gotta keep moving, like
Yeah.
that it's like, well, so what? Yesterday was hard, who cares?
Yeah.
No one cares.
It's gonna get
Yeah.
harder,
Yeah,
right?
it's
Like,
supposed to be hard.
right,
Yeah.
like you're not gonna like wake up, it's on easy street. Even easy street feels the stress, they
Yeah.
just don't show it. That's the thing. Like what we're seeing is not genuine. So
Mm.
we're not learning how to be genuine.
Yeah,
And
yep.
genuine is nice. When genuine should be like
Genuine's
what
honest.
we
It's
all
honest.
are.
It's honesty.
Like when
Yeah.
you see something that you're curious about, you don't stare it down, you ask a question. You know what I mean? You pose a question. You give a layer of I'm a real person. Sometimes I find after a while I'll immediately get respect from some of my clients that I work with, like within the first meeting with them, and it's such a good tone for the rest of it. I can tell when folks think that I'm just being too nice and they try to take advantage of it. And when they
yeah.
see it turn around, and I get real task oriented and very focused on what they're trying
Like
to
don't
pick
take
apart.
my nice tone of voice for granted. I'm from the east side of Detroit.
I mean, that's the part that comes out, but the best part is when you know your craft, it comes out in your
Yeah.
skill. It doesn't
Confidence.
come out in your voice. It doesn't come out in anger. It comes out in your craft, in your skill, and what you're good at, which is why you have to do jobs that don't make you question, can I live? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You have to do jobs that make you wake up and want to go to them for folks that are like, I'm depressed, you got to change
Yep.
what's going on. It's immediate change that needs to happen. It's not a pill. With your job, if it is awful to punch in with or punch into, close a door.
Mm-hmm.
3 or 4 may open. Do not be afraid of that. I think
Mm-hmm.
people stay in their damn bubble, and it
Yep.
is so weird to witness. Like, I feel awful when I scroll through the feed sometimes
Mm-hmm.
on Facebook, and it's just COVID has made me depressed. And I get it. It's made
Yeah.
us really stifled as
Dude,
humans.
you
It's
lost
made
your
us have
jobs.
to assess who we are. I honestly feel really bad for people that are
Okay,
pretty
yeah.
because you haven't been able to use your
Dude, that
prettiness to
is-
your damn advantage.
You said it. You said it on the head.
If you didn't have a personality, you better after COVID
Yeah.
because you're not going
'Cause-
to have that interaction. You're not going to use the vanity unless you're just on a
Well,
video.
I did read an
so.
article in the Wall Street Journal actually that said this website that has completely altered the landscape of pornography called OnlyFans is literally it's like a paid website that like people you can get your own OnlyFans. It's like
okay.
it's like, but the point is like it's a bunch of unemployed women who are doing whatever.
Who are capitalizing on their gifts.
which is
I get
great.
To each his own, man.
Exactly, but
That's
apparently
what
it
you
was
do.
like porn stars have like literally quit the porn. And she's like, I'm just gonna go do this because they're making so much more money.
I would never subject. Yeah.
Well, it's crazy to think like, okay, wait, like whatever you think about pornography, it is the fact that like, you can.
no,
tell
it's
me,
freaking rad. I don't understand
Well,
why
yeah.
kids don't see it sooner. They're sneaking to find it. I don't
Yeah,
know why
exactly.
parents
Be
don't
honest
have
with
like,
it.
all right, man, it's going to be weird if I talk to you about some of this. Just like some of these videos.
Have
are
you seen those
kinda
New Zealand
warped, but,
commercials?
like,
There's new commercials that I've seen on YouTube that are from the government that run in the government or that the government of New Zealand has put together and runs in New Zealand. That literally, it's like these two porn stars knock at this kid's door, this house, and it's like, hey, is Bobby here? Whatever their Kiwi accent is. It's like, who are you? It's like, oh, we're the mates that he was watching on the video, and we want to make sure he knows that this isn't, that I would never actually do that to a woman. She's like,
Right.
oh yeah, I would never, talk to a guy like that, And the mom's like, oh, okay, and he's like, call him Tommy, whatever, and he goes
Right.
back, and he's like, Tommy. He's like, hey, and it was just this idea.
I haven't
yeah.
seen this. I'm
Oh,
gonna
yeah.
immediately leave
If
it
I
and go
had
look
some,
for it.
I'll
so
send you
it's
the link.
fine.
It's the idea. It's like, hey, like, do they know this?
Here's where we're at, right? So if you as a parent are lacking in the ability to inform your children, this is not the 1980s where they're going to go ask their friends. They're going to ask the internet, and they're going to find the most warped,
Oh my god.
effed up things.
Yeah.
I remember the first time my stepdaughter asked me about what an STD was, and she had saw or heard something in a song that brought her to asking me this. And she was 11 at the time. My Bella right now is
Okay.
11. So I a lot of times feel like I was blessed because I got to go through experiences before I had
yeah.
kids
Dude, nice.
of my own with my stepdaughter. So she
See, can you write that down? Because I'm thinking about having kids, and you had the practice run.
Yeah.
So let me
Yeah.
know what those insights are.
for sure. So she asked me this question, and she's like, so I'm gonna ask Google because I know you're my stepmom. I know you probably want to tell me, but my mom might think it's weird. So I'll Google it. And I was like, I don't know. When you Google it though, honey, you're gonna see
What
like
was she-
really
Do you know
bad
what she was
stuff.
going to Google, like specifically?
No, but the very first image that popped up was a blue waffle STD. These are what she did was she got the F-bomb of STDs in terms of what she could
went
find in a
straight
picture.
to you better never have sex ever.
So
Damn, that's
immediately more
terrifying.
questions, you know what I mean? And what
Yeah, that's
made
shitty.
me
That's
kind
shitty.
of excited was, and it's warped that I would be that excited about an educational opportunity, but damn it, it was. It was like,
Mhm.
well, fuck if I don't capitalize on this moment. It's not even my kid.
Because she was kind of lost in
but
that
I
moment.
have to
like,
tell her, like, honey, we
this-
don't get to
yeah.
see all the nice stuff on the movies and the videos. You're seeing this fabulous life, right? Real life is that.
yeah, that can happen, man.
When they look amazing. Okay? So let's just put that into perspective. If that could be the worst, let's just wait on
Yeah.
all of that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Let's find out more as you go.
Yeah.
And when it becomes like, I need to ask a question, go back to it. But the fact that that's what you pulled off, the first thing that you pulled up to look at, I mean, that's got to tell you, all right, do not pass go
This
at
is
this
real.
point.
Yeah, it's like just hold
it's
on
just-
a second. Yeah.
There's levels of it, and raising daughters is terrifying because I'm like, if I don't tell them, I'm going to be screwed. You know what I mean? And I really have to come to grips with the bras, the periods, the boys, all the gross stuff that I was like, please God, let me get boys. And I
Oh,
didn't.
see,
You know
I
what I mean?
assume
So
you didn't have the. I mean,
I had 3 brothers growing up. So I
so
did not
when did
have
you have your first boyfriend?
the female exposure. I think I was like 18 because
Oh,
every
jeez,
dude was
yeah,
my friend. So none of them crossed
that line.
that friend zone.
But
And
that was you doing your thing, right?
I think a lot of it was that I didn't allow for it. So I
Mm-hmm.
just didn't. All that to me was so awkward
Dude,
and freaking
how many
weird.
guys' hearts did you break? You friend zoned all of them.
Well, I didn't, and I was so like oblivious. You know what I mean?
That's
And
what's so,
I remember my brother, my eldest
so for
brother,
guys who
laughing
okay,
like
I've been friend zoned
hysterically.
once, and I was like, well, this is what the hell. Obviously, this girl is just a cruel woman. That's what I thought at the time.
Yeah.
But for you telling me, it's like, no, I just, I don't even know. No, that wasn't it. See, you're
I
making
think
me
it's
feel
really
better.
funny. There are a couple male friendships to this day. I think their wives probably thought that we were involved, and I never was involved with them.
But the guy
They
was
were my
secretly in love
best
with you. But he
friends.
loved.
They were my best. Like,
And you know what?
I never had
when
to
there's-
feel weirdness from dudes. I always
That's
had
awesome.
to feel it from my own sex. So it
That's
was always
awesome.
really
Yeah.
uncomfortable.
Well,
I never.
yeah,
And
you're right.
identifying that, like, where did that friend zone pop? It would never pop up. I just would rather care about going and eating pizza or hot dogs or something. I don't
Well, I
wanna
think it's a
talk
good
about
thing.
that
I mean,
shit,
like, I'm
so.
not gonna say it's a good thing or a bad thing, but I think it's kind of made you who you are because I think you're awesome. So obviously, like,
Oh,
whatever's
thanks.
well, no, like, dude, like,
Thanks.
again, like, so for people who don't know, we were supposed to do this podcast like 2 Sundays ago,
Yeah.
and I
Facts.
did the most asshole thing. I honestly, I was actually sober that whole weekend. I was just exhausted. I felt the idea that I was burning both ends of the candles.
Yeah.
So I ended up texting her on like Sunday and being like, hey, I got to cancel, which as a mom of 2, doing a million things, I felt terrible. And then, she was going to come Sunday, but then you got held up. So
Yeah.
I'm glad we were able to do it. So my apology for
Yeah, high
that.
five.
Yeah. Yeah. No, but anyway, literally you're awesome. And the fact that like, you're so nice and genuine, and your energy, I can understand it. In fact, it's identical to mine, but it comes out so much more, positively.
Yeah.
Mine, like you mentioned, looking down on the bus, like I didn't grow up in a big city. I grew up in San Antonio, Texas.
Yeah.
Not like Detroit with public transportation, but
Yeah.
I have that mindset of just look down and keep going.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of it just when you're determined to do what you want to do. It's so funny because a lady at the airport one time identified it in my youngest. We were carrying gigantic bags, and I got to a point where I had to like stop for a second and take a breath. And my 2-year-old at the time gets the biggest bag we have, and she's got it on the wheels, so she's got this thing. You know what I mean? Once she gets some momentum going, like
Yeah.
she's.
I mean, but
She's
when
got
she
it.
stops,
It
it's going to
was
run her over, right?
huge, you know what I mean? So yeah, I had to intervene at some point, but it was so cherishing to watch her spirit because she embodies all that perseverance and persistence that I had. And this older woman was like, well, look at the persistence in that tiny one. She's going to be fire. And it's really like,
It's come true.
yeah, I think honestly, my tiny ones inspire me. When people say, I'm waiting to have kids till the right time, I'm waiting to do this for the right time.
Yeah, that's
I don't,
bullshit. Yeah.
the right time could be never.
Well,
You know what I mean?
Look,
It
as
is
someone who,
whatever.
I was that guy. I was like,
Mhm.
let me wait till I buy a house. Let me wait till I get this, blah, blah, blah. And then COVID hit. I'm like, you know what, dude? Like, it doesn't matter. Like,
Yeah.
and honestly, it was never about waiting for like, I would say the right time. It's just, I have my own reasons for like the weariness of having kids. But yeah, like, I mean, if anyone doesn't know, planning for anything is bullshit. Obviously, I mean, look at the world right now. You just kind of
yes.
roll with it, right?
Yes. Yes, I feel that people that plan have bigger issues in this world.
Dude,
You
yeah.
have to do other things that
Dude,
are more
that's-
fun. So
Yeah.
my father really pushed about goals and plans, and he always wanted to know my 1-year plan, my 5-year plan, my 10-year plan.
How did you get into tech? Like, how did you end up in like, being this great partnership manager or, whatever?
It's wild. I started in the education world because my dad would only pay for me to go to school to either be a nurse or a teacher. So I was like, well,
You
I don't
didn't
want
like
to
blood.
poke people.
Oh, that's-
I actually, the blood doesn't, I love gore movies. I
Yeah.
think it's awesome. I love some cult classics that are really nasty and gore. I
Like
love that.
what? Like
However, like Army of Darkness, Toxic Avenger,
Holy
like gross
crap.
ones, just gross,
Army of
weird
Darkness.
ones.
The
So,
only reason I know that is because I was at some random place in Brooklyn with a friend of mine, and we were at a bar, and he was like, "Dude, we're about to play Army of Darkness," and I was like, Yeah, dude, can I get the tater tots and the bourbon with the water, please? Like,
The cult classics for me, they were just where it was at. I would just stay up really late on Saturdays and catch them on TV normally.
so
So.
nurse,
Yeah, so
educator.
I was either nurse or teacher, and I was like, well, the nurse is not my bag. So I like kids. I'm gonna have them one day. Let's do that. And I grew up the oldest. I was pretty much the oldest on my block. I did a lot of voluntold babysitting. So I really feel like for me, it was almost natural, though I didn't want to be doing it. I just accepted it. Like, this is what I'm gonna do. When I graduated from high school, first of all, I came up through Boys and Girls
Were
Club.
you in Detroit?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. When I came up through Boys and Girls Club, I worked for them when I got into middle school and I was junior staff. Then I graduated, I became staff, and then I started tutoring. So I was no longer staff at the program. I worked for the school. And I think when I made that adjustment, I realized that education was probably the good direction for me to go in. I have an extreme ton of patience. So it's really important in that role to have that. Though I always felt really out of place because I now look more teacherly as a mom than I used to. I have had for on and off for like 17 years, really long dreads. So
Yeah.
I don't know that it always
Dude, I
fits
don't
the
think I've
part.
ever seen you without a hat. Like, you don't have to get it off, but like, do you have just dreads? Like, how long do they
Oh,
go?
for now. Yeah, for now. I think
What do you mean
I
for now?
started them before COVID. I don't know how long I'm going to let them grow this time around. I've had
Oh,
them on and off
oh.
for like 17
Wait, did you
years.
have what
I had regular,
hair?
plain,
Like,
straight
did I
hair.
see you?
Well,
Like,
straightened hair
I
when
don't
I
even
saw you
remember.
last.
Okay.
I look pretty kooky right now, just so I get the hat
Well, dude,
on.
everyone looks pretty kooky.
Yeah.
So wait, your dreads were how long? At
Oh,
one
I've
point?
had them on and off for a long part of my life, like
Holy
almost
shit.
half my life. And I'll have them for like 5 years, 6 years, and then I'll cut them. I'll get sick of them. I'll get racially profiled and get pissed off and cut them off. Like there's been a
This is
variety of
terrible.
reasons. Yeah, there's been a
I want to
variety of
look
reasons.
blonde
I'm
again.
not Rasta. It's a hairstyle. You know what I mean? Like
Well, and
screw this.
your husband has his dreads, right?
I think I've like naturally chosen dreads, not on purpose, but just
Yeah.
because
But doesn't
I
he
don't
have
know.
dreads?
He does. Yeah,
Yeah.
my partner right now has
Yeah.
dreads. He's had long dreads, short dreads.
Oh, what's his name again? Nice
Will.
guy. Will, dude.
Yeah.
So Will's like the nicest guy ever. When you come to softball
Yeah.
with the little ones, he was always there. Seemed like a nice dude.
Yeah, he is the most supportive person that
Yeah.
I've ever had in my life.
Genuine guy. Like, yeah.
I don't know that I've even had someone that could be a rock because when people are like, "That's my rock," I'm like, "I thought you're your rock." You know what I mean? Like I understand the concept of someone else
Yeah.
being your rock, but I think he makes me get it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it's not about what people say. It's not about what they show up with for you. It's about them always being there, like even when you suck and not exacerbating the suck, like minimizing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And when you're in your worst moments, I get what people say about that person's my rock because I feel like he's probably the only person that could calm me down when I'm really losing everything around me. So yeah, I
Yeah.
get that. I don't have very many moments though where I lose everything around me. So that frequently in relationships gets challenged. Like, what are you trying to be the man? Do you have too strong of an ego? So I feel like I really belong now in tech. I
Dude,
was
that's
in
awesome.
this teaching role for so long with women that were freaking morons. Like I would hate going to the lunchroom because I knew they were going to talk about freaking LuLaRoe parties,
I don't even know
candle
what that is.
parties,
Oh, jeez.
Tupperware shit that they would say. I hated the average idea of what teachers were doing for side hustles, even. Like you're selling products. You have
Oh.
education skills. Like go tutor.
So
So
that's what you do. You
I think
tutor
it just
now.
drove me nuts seeing all these side businesses. And I honestly, as my
Like pyramid
entrance into
schemes,
teaching, I'm
essential
seeing,
oils.
yeah, I'm seeing these ladies just selling anything on the side to make extra money, you know? And I'm like, this is,
Well, first of all, that's sad because they shouldn't have to do that.
isn't it though?
But also, like, they should be smart enough to know, come on, guys.
Skills.
Essential oils, come on.
We've got to get skills at this
Yeah.
point. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah, dude.
Immediately, I was always working with students for a tutoring company as on the side. And the tutoring company went out of business. So, but this one woman was like, but I need you for my son.
Oh.
Can I hire you to like just.
Cha-ching.
And for me, I was like, well, this is weird. I don't have a business. So, and then I was like, what am I saying?
You're like,
I
wait,
went
what
home that
is a
night
business?
and I was like, No, I absolutely have a business. I'm going to need to get business cards to look legit. I need to learn how to do my own bookkeeping. There were skills that I needed to learn then because
Yeah.
she got the gears going. Like, I don't have to do what they told me in college, that I have to just go to a school and work. I don't have to.
Yeah.
I could start my own school if I wanted to get grant money for it. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, as a teacher, you're so pigeonholed in what you do, and your ideas are so shot out the door off rip, that you like don't pursue them. You just do what you're told. You get in this
Or you
place
just
where
sell
you're
essential
like
oils.
almost in the military. You're like,
Ugh.
someone's telling you 2/3 of the year, we're going to standardize tests. You're going to give this kids this, you're going to give this kids that. And you're just like, okay. You can get a monkey to do that. You don't need like a trained human. You don't need somebody that's been to college with a college degree they're still paying on and
Yeah.
can barely afford. Like, you don't need somebody like that needs to be in a position where they're working from their heart. And some women can
Mm.
afford it. They've got that
Yeah,
like
I was gonna say,
husband
yeah.
that's got a job that compares with their income or more, and
Dude, yeah.
they're
So,
banking, so they can
mhm.
afford to be teachers. I got to a point where I literally could not afford to be a teacher because my Starbucks side job was paying me more money
Fuck.
than my teaching job,
Dude,
had
that's
better
so funny.
insurance
So
than my teaching
the
job.
only
Like,
reason why I can actually kind of understand what you're saying about the whole like husbands and teachers are, who have husbands who are well to do is a lot of my buddies in college married teachers. And a lot of
yeah.
my buddies are all engineers.
Mhm.
Like, in Houston, like petroleum, chemical. And I'm like, huh.
I'm noticing a theme here.
Yeah, wait a second.
It's just enough
Yeah.
income where it'll help.
I always wondered why like the education department was like right across the street from the engineering building.
Yeah, it's a
Campus. Like,
setup.
that's so weird.
It's a setup. It's a setup. That's where you go. That's
Dude,
where
so
you
want to hear something crazy? So in college, one of my jobs, my college job was driving a school bus, but not like an actual, like a city bus.
Okay.
But I was like 20. So they gave me in charge of like, so I went to Texas A&M. It was a huge campus. We had, I think it was like 9 on-campus bus routes with these big buses. And then like, I think like not 9 or 10 like off-campus around the whole city. So like, it was the highest paying job, got it, whatever. I remember though, like a month, maybe it was a month and a half after I'd gotten my like CDL, my commercial driver's license, and I literally had done like, remember it's a route. I did a circle around campus for like a month, and you could sign up for these extra paying jobs on the weekend. And I'm like, yeah, college is fucking expensive. Okay. So I signed up to drive this charter education department to Houston.
Nice.
It was nice, but like, first of all, I can drive like a motherfucker. I can drive. I've driven in Manhattan car. I've driven everywhere.
Oh, I've done medical
Yeah.
couriering. So,
Yeah.
I've done the driver
But
role.
the
And
point is,
Uber,
like,
Lyft.
major
Yeah.
cities don't bother me. And I was cool to do this, but I realized like they're letting a 20-year-old drive a bus full of, I don't know, 1/5 of the education department, 70 miles an hour down a highway, and then in Houston traffic. I'm 20 years old. I've been doing this literally for like 5 weeks. I'm thinking like, I think I'm making like $15 an hour.
Oh
so
my
this will be
gosh.
dope. But I remember thinking like, I remember looking in my rearview mirror thinking like, I don't know if I swerved or the wind caught. Something happened where like the bus shook and I was like, oh shit, this is real. Like,
I got all
Yeah.
these people's lives.
it
right
got
here?
quick. I was like, and I think that was the first time I realized like, what I do has consequences. Like, it was the first time I was like, I could kill everybody.
Yeah.
It freaked me out. It
Yeah.
legit, I almost had like a panic attack. I was like, holy fuck, what are you doing?
I think you're in that once again like uncomfortable space to grow though, right? Because it's so infrequent that we do that, right? I think the best part about my crummy teaching years where I got paid really terrible was that I had no shame in my hustle. I would work. How many jobs do I need to have? 2 or 3 so I can go have fun? That's fine. I'll stack job on job on job on job on job. I'll work a job while I'm doing another job. I'll be on 2 time clocks
Dude,
at
how
the
many
same
jobs are you doing
time.
right now? Because one of the challenges was getting you to do a podcast. You're so busy. You're like, I tutor, Monday through Friday, Saturday. I was like, wait, what?
It's not that heavy anymore
Okay.
because honestly, I'm trying to get back into school really bad and realize that in order to maintain, because the master's program at Syracuse that I'm enrolled in is really, really taxing. So I have to be like
Shit.
100%
What are you in your master's
there.
in, dude?
Cybersecurity.
I didn't know this.
Yeah, at Syracuse. Yeah,
That's amazing. Holy
I have my
crap.
bachelor's in tech management and development. I have an associate's in web design and programming. And then I am working right now on my master's in cybersecurity because I have a minor in cybersecurity. And
Because you're smart.
there's essentially not a lot of people policing the internet, especially in
Mhm.
America. So I'm really excited
There's a
about.
huge shortage of cybersecurity experts in America.
It's true,
Massive
but man,
shortage.
is it tough to get into that world. So
Well, if you
you
look,
have to do that like ground tech work.
I know someone who works as a pretty high dog at IC Squared here in Clearwater,
Oh, nice.
which I think they're like a big dog in terms of service. Wait,
Yeah.
no, yeah,
No, they're a
yeah, IC Squared,
fantastic
yeah,
local company.
yeah. So yeah,
Yeah.
he he would
Plug me
love to.
in.
Yo,
Yeah, an
dude,
internship. I'm willing to do almost anything to gain exposure at this point because
yeah.
that's what it's a matter of.
Oh,
It's really
for
about
sure.
what you know, and not who you
So
know
what
in
do
tech,
you
and then also
do?
who knows you. So
Yeah, tech's a it's a weird world. I mean, you hear like again when I say tech, I don't mean San Francisco tech. We we live in Florida.
yeah.
It's not the same, but
No, it's like healthcare tech. It feels like it.
yeah. Oh God, it is. I hate. Why
It
is there so
feels
much
like it.
healthcare tech or law tech? It's like, hey,
Yeah,
we're a new
yeah.
SaaS software that'll replace lawyers. I'm like, why are y'all all based here in Tampa? I don't. Anyway.
Yeah, there's a lot of that.
But no, what were we talking about? I forgot.
The tech industry is
Oh, yeah.
super narrow here.
It's super narrow and it's kind of awkward,
Yeah, because you feel like you have to leave in order to land a cool tech job.
which sucks.
Yeah, I actually interviewed for a tech company Pinellas County School uses called Focus Software. And the guy said, well, what's your dream job? And I was like, oh, I dream to work at Google and have a laid back environment. And he laughed at me. And I thought, like, why would you ask that question if you would laugh at
Why
someone?
did he
Like,
laugh at you?
because he just thought it was so unrealistic. And that's exactly what he said right after. He's like, I think that's just so unrealistic with somebody that doesn't have really any experience. Like for me, I have lofty goals. I don't shoot for the lowest. And then when I make it, like get excited. Like
Yeah.
I want to do
Here's
the
your orange
craziest
slices
things
and
where
your
people
participation
don't
trophy. Yeah.
expect me to be. I want to
He
surprise
laughed.
you.
What
I
company-
like
yeah.
that.
Like whatever
best
company that
part
was,
was
we should
is
call them
that
out. Yeah.
It didn't matter. It was the owner of the company that was smoking a joint in the alley when I was walking up. And I was so surprised when I saw him take that CEO seat. And I was like, okay.
Interesting.
I saw you though. Like,
How's that?
This
Yeah.
is funny. It was just weird to have
Was
that.
he
Like,
was he much more like was he too quiet? Was he freaking out? Was he
just,
eating?
I think he was
was
just
munching,
overly
wasn't he?
honest. I think the laughing at the I want to work at Google. I think that's what provoked the oh, she wants to work at Google or she thinks
He was like,
that's a
"Damn."
dream job. Hold on,
Actually,
that's
yeah.
funny.
Yeah, I was
Whatever it was for me, it was awkward because I was like, I don't know how to respond when somebody's laughing and I was serious. Like, is this guy serious right now? Does he what? Do I laugh too?
Did you
I'm
want to
not-
punch him in the
not
face?
gonna.
Like what was your initial thought?
Well, it's weird because I can actually take about 5 minutes of somebody being really negative. So I immediately just put my raincoat on. I was ready for the rainy season of just whatever was going to get thrown because
That is an amazing analogy. I'm sorry.
you
That's
have
great.
you have to put it on. We're
Holy
not
shit.
equipped with the skin that people want to try to make us be in sometimes. People are really harsh and they're really that honesty part comes out as just like I'm going to be a jerk instead of being honest and like being respectfully honest.
Yeah,
There
there's
is
a
like
tact to it. There's a tact.
yeah,
right?
you have
gotta
to be smooth. If you're not smooth, don't shoot for honesty. Shoot for just straight up lying to
Just
someone.
lie to
Like just
people.
because obviously
that's
you're better
true.
at that part. You
That's
know
a
what I
good
mean?
point.
Like
I'd
you
like to think I can be honest without being a complete asshole. Albeit sometimes I'm like, no, I'm going to be an asshole because that's what someone needs. Because
Yeah.
at the end of the day, I think the other thing is you mentioned like uncomfortable situation. You need to be uncomfortable. Like, dude,
Yeah.
that was terrible. Or like, dude, like, look.
well,
look-
I think
yeah.
there's like, okay, when there's like a way to bring up stuff that really sucks,
Mm-hmm.
it's like good, bad, good, so that like you sandwich it with good so it doesn't feel so bad. You know what I mean? Like
Okay.
the truth could be like
Oh, I just learned that. That's good.
you could tell somebody something that'll pump them up in a really honest way. You're not BSing them. You're not filling their head. You're telling them something
Yes.
legitimate truth that's going to build them up. You give them the pointer of like what they're doing, what they could be doing, why they need to do it that way. And then you sandwich it with something good underneath it. So the person walks away like not salty at you for being honest. You know what I mean?
Dude, I have this this. where
It's
I'm working-
tough to do
I have this-
tactfully.
This sales coach who's, he's my boss, I guess, but like this guy is just like the most. I'm not gonna say inspirational. He's just like the smartest guy I've met in a long time.
That's
And
awesome.
it was interesting because I was only at Community Brands for a few months before their changes happened, and say la vie. But other than that place, it's been recently here in Tampa. And I don't want this to come off as arrogant, but I felt like sometimes you talk about the narrow tech world. At some of these startup companies I was working at, I felt like I was the smartest guy in the room sometimes, which is like, it's unnerving. In
Well, I
fact, it's
think a
almost
lot of
scary.
times people can pay other people to do things, so that means they lack the skill. And the hardest part is when you
That's,
have it and you're
yeah.
not able to market yourself like the people that
Well, that's why I
don't.
started this business. I'm like, this is
Yeah.
crazy. I was like, wait a second, I can build a company. I've been doing this for like years. And
Yeah.
when the end result is like, do these guys know what they're doing?
I think a lot
Yeah.
of them just wing it. You know, it's hilarious.
Which
I
is
had this huge
terrifying.
stigma coming into the tech world that I am competing with people that know everything. Go ahead and tell
Oh
me
my
you know
God.
everything, dude, and I will challenge that because tomorrow it could change. Tech changes overnight.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
understand the folks that are so
Yeah.
PHP based and COBOL based. You're talking ancient programming languages that are just barely relevant in 2020. However, the internet changes overnight. Things in the world change at the drop of a dime. To have this idea that your intelligence
Yep.
is comparatively better than another person is ignorant. We have stuff to learn from everybody. Even the biggest fool in the world has something to learn from, even if it's how not to act. Like
Yeah.
there's something to be picked up from.
So
And
you
and
said
tech folks really act like they're the stuff and
it's
like this
so
can't be
gross.
learned.
And you know what's funny is
You
that
can't possibly know
so
this.
I had been in the software world for a long time, and quite frankly, I was so over it. And maybe it
Mhm.
was because again, I worked at a lot of startups, and a lot of them in DC had done well. Bigger market, bigger tech world. It's not like San Francisco, but more opportunity for them to succeed, and again, more opportunity for them to learn about how to do this.
Right.
And when you say like people here were winging it, I was just like, oh, what? Like, what are y'all doing? And it wasn't at Community Brands. It was some of the other companies I worked at, and I was just in shock. But that's literally what drove me away from startups. Was that, and I hate to say this because temp is awesome, but like,
Mhm.
there's this lack of like, you have no end game. You're just winging it. And one of the biggest sayings that I heard here was "fake it till you make it." And I'm thinking like, that's
I
a
think there's arenas for that,
yeah,
for sure.
yeah.
In tech,
I guess I
no.
was hoping for
In the
more
medical
mature.
field, no.
No.
I feel like in anything in the judicial field, the executive branch, no. I
Yeah.
think there are arenas for fake it till you make it.
Yeah, I think Trump sometimes he fakes it to make it, which like
Guy.
I've been on some sales calls. I'm like, my first week here, I'm gonna script shit, yeah,
Yeah.
but
No, I get it.
also I'm not running the fucking most powerful country in the world.
Right.
Yeah,
I think it's that. It's like the total lack of regard. Like because I'm not getting paid, this is what you get.
yeah,
And I mean, I could appreciate that if I was sitting back not getting paid off my own
yeah.
wealth, personal wealth. I'm not. The rest of this
It'd be
country
nice.
isn't.
Yeah.
Nobody here golfs as much as you do. No one is
Well,
wanting
there
to
is a
see you
golf course right here,
burn
and I know for a fact
Air Force
my
One so
neighbor
that you
does
can
golf.
go.
He golfs every day. This guy next door, because we have a golf course right here. He
Yeah.
literally golfs every day, and he has a full time job, and he's married with kids. I'm just saying.
Well, for him, that's probably like, I don't go to the bar, I go to the
I'm
golf course. It's
99% sure though his wife hates him. Just saying
Yeah.
that. I'm just saying that because
Well, I mean, that's the
yeah,
escape, though, too. And I'm
yeah,
golfing, so I'm not at a bar, so it should be fine
yeah,
with you. What's wrong with
exactly,
you?
yeah.
Why are you freaking out?
Well, so going back, you we talked about like fake it till you make it in the tech world, like.
Yeah. That doesn't work for women, though. That only is that's a very special category for that men fit into in the tech world. To fake it till you make it.
But what I
Because
notice here is
even when you know things as a woman, it's still like we're not going to listen to you.
dude, but
very
I'm
honestly.
telling you, like, it is disheartening here to see the tech, some of the startups not just, not have like, they should have hired you, is what I'm saying. Like, people like you who understand, like, look, dude, like, I know what I'm doing. Because
I
the
think I
knowledge you
have a level of care in the tech world that a lot of techs don't, though, because like a lot of techs, it's a natural for them.
well, you understand
For
the
me,
customer. You know,
I am
yeah.
new to this world.
Mm-hmm.
This world for me, I began working with tech because as an educator for sixth graders and eighth graders, I was tasked with running STEM clubs and we had to build robots and program them. And they
Nice.
were basic Arduino robots that we used, and Raspberry Pi kits that we used. We used Python coding language to
Yeah.
build like just really simple, cool
Yeah.
programs.
That's cool though.
And
That's
I
basics. I know
realized
that stuff. That's
when
it.
I picked it up and I was like, oh, wait, I'm remembering this. I am like excited to go do this club with kids. Like, I am the biggest weirdo right now. Like, I found something that I'm excited about right now. So that left me, okay, now I work at the Science Center of Pinellas County. So I'm going to exit the teaching world as smoothly as I can. And the Science Center helped me grow in all the programming and computer aspects because they had a lot of
Ah,
programs there at the time.
yeah.
I was the youngest person that they had basically hired. There were like a couple girls younger than me, but they were not tech savvy. I had built robots and had this like, I'm starting to learn code. I've got this, move over. They had a lab of all these computers that needed to get set up on a network. I was like, I think I've got this. Like, you guys can go do whatever you were doing. It got to a point where I was like, wait, I know how to do this. And then I got really frustrated because when it came to learning the software, I was pretty much only using like IBM computers. I was not using a lot of Apple technology. So for me,
You're using
most of
like some, yeah.
Microsoft products create a very frustrated user. They put you in a place of like
I
you are
hate,
at the
yeah.
mercy of Control
Yeah.
Alt Delete and whether it'll work or not. And
I
I
hate,
got so
yeah.
frustrated that
Can
I
we talk about
had
that for a second?
yeah.
Like,
Oh my
just for a
gosh.
moment, because I used to hate that guys. Oh, Mac is so much better. Like, I have a Mac. I love startups because typically they all have their own, Mac setups.
Mhm.
I'm at a company now, which is a bigger company, awesome, doing well. But like, we went on Windows, PCs. It's just so cumbersome from a user experience. You mentioned
It's
Control
just
Delete. I
crummy.
use it like at least 3 days, 3 times a week. I
It's
will hit that.
crummy.
Yeah,
It's
I've
crummy.
never done that on a Mac ever. Well, I have a couple times, but like 4 or 5 times, and I've used Mac for 10 years, and
See,
that's
for
yeah.
me, I got an intro to computers on Macs because I'm like the first generation of when computers were really getting into schools, pretty
hmm
much.
As an educator, right? You were educating people at the time, or you actually
No,
just
I mean,
using
my
them?
entrance in schools was like when
Oh
computers were
shit!
hitting the deck and schools were getting funded to get them.
What?
So our
Uh,
very first computers were like rectangularly long.
the apples?
Yeah, and they were
I remember that.
Macs.
Yep.
And I
Oregon Trail in the green.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Oregon Trail every day when we came into
What else did
computer
we do?
class,
What else did
typing
we
tests. We had to do
typing?
massive typing tests. And
I
always
don't
like,
remember.
we had like, type this essay and it was crap we didn't know, words we barely knew. I'm like, is
Why
he
weren't they
even doing
teaching us
his work?
coding
Why
at
do
the
I
time?
have to
Yeah.
do this work? Like,
The
I don't
kid's
know.
just hitting I and he fell
Yeah,
asleep.
this
Like,
guy's listening to music. I think he figured
yeah.
out how to put a CD in there or something. I don't know. It was like really crazy.
Dude, yeah,
Yeah.
I remember that. Little brown ones.
Yeah, so I think for me, I am from the beginning of when technology was present. I
hmm
never had the idea that as a woman I could be operating computers and know more than a guy. It's insane. It's awesome to
Why?
have
Well,
that.
why do you think you had that mentality in the first place? That you
Well, it
could,
was
yeah.
total upbringing. It was just in the
Oh,
way that
okay.
like women,
Do you
their
think that
place
some?
is here. This is where they belong.
Well,
This
can I
is
ask you a
where.
serious question about that? Because my question is like, do you think that women now? I feel like some of them are kind of ingrained with that mindset.
They don't take advantage of all the opportunities that we have now.
No,
That's for
I feel like
sure.
you're as a woman, and my sister brought this up that she's always been told like as a woman it's gonna be 10 times harder.
Yeah.
Which there's certain things that you'll never be able to achieve because men or whatever, which might be true, but like it just seems like starting someone out like 10 feet behind the start line initially is like, does that motivate people or does that have the counter effect? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, I
So
think honestly, um, minorities feel that all
yeah,
the time. So, I mean, like, if anything, it just brings me closer to how they feel in their position and
hmm
cooler with people of all different types
yeah,
because of that position. So, I mean, it has its ups and its downs. Obviously, you have to do more to prove that you're relevant. In my master's program, my last course had one woman besides myself out of 28 people. The course that I had for my C sharp programming class that I had at Syracuse, I was the only female in the entire class. There were 43 people in that lecture hall. I
why
think
is that though?
I
Like,
think it's funny because sometimes when I go to gatherings with friends, I am the only white person there. It's really kind of an awesome experience. I'm starting to get the
whoa,
theme and the feeling that I don't mind being the only person there because it's like For me, it's almost exciting because it's not boring. It's not like expected. You know what I mean?
A
There's
little bit
gonna be
more
some
sprinkling.
element
Hey,
of
here's a little bit of sprinkle. This is where I landed.
yeah, I
Dude,
I
that's
like it.
amazing.
It's
Yeah.
awesome. It goes back to that, hey, I'm uncomfortable again. Hey, I'm uncomfortable again. Hey, I'm the only one again. And then you get to a place where uncomfortable makes you feel good.
Yeah.
And that's when you
Because
open
you're
up.
pushing
That's when you
yourself, right? You're
go.
pushing
That's when you're
yourself. Yeah.
vulnerable. That's when you get
Yep.
all the emotional side of you that needs to grow that we hinder ourselves from. We keep ourselves in like what we see people do emotionally, and that's how we need to act. Or if we hang out with a group of friends and three of them are going through it with their partners, now we go home and we're going through it with our partner, even though we weren't when we left. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? It's really more of like
Just in case.
we
Yeah.
practice what we see. And what we're seeing is a lot of emotional explosiveness all over in the media, at home. Parents aren't knowing how to deal with children. They're cooped up and they explode. Partners explode on one another. It's like this level where you can't be human. You can't be accepted. You're in a box. You better accept the box. It's like you better drink the juice. Like
You're
it's
definitely
just
outside the box, which is awesome.
yeah, I hate the box. It's awful.
But
It's
you're
a
not pushing out. See, I feel like some people push out of the box just to push. You're like, no, I generally want to like. I understand that I'm at my best when there's not adversity, but I'm uncomfortable,
mhm.
right? Because my goal is to fit in, or not even fit in, just understand, right?
Well, I think when we're uncomfortable, we get
Or
more
sharper.
we go inside. We
Mm-hmm.
look within. And when we don't have stuff to feel bad about, and we don't have to look within negatively, we don't mind being ourselves.
Yeah,
Even
dude.
I don't mind putting on rock around a bunch of my black friends because I know two of them love it. I don't mind that.
Well, even then, you
I
love it.
don't mind the
You love
fact
it,
that
right? And
like
if they're your friends,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, it's
that's what I think
funny.
is important.
I thought one time, man, I should have a birthday party. This is going to be fantastic. And then I thought how I'm friends with so many different kind of folks that I would hate to have a birthday party and have folks go into their groups and segregate themselves. You know what I mean? Like I brought you here so you
I
won't
have a
segregate one
solution. I have a
another, but you
solution for
will,
this.
I know
I have a
naturally.
solution. You want to hear this?
Put on George Clinton?
No,
I
but
mean,
close.
I
Honestly,
mean,
put on salsa music.
okay. Or
Because
salsa,
let me tell you, like
funk,
the
or
only
salsa.
person, unless you have a whole group of Latin people there,
Mhm.
even then that's probably better. But if you have one Latin person who can salsa,
Mhm.
everyone's like, oh, and it'll get everybody. Just,
Yeah.
I'm telling you, salsa music at an event that's like so diverse, it's like, oh, okay. Have some drink. Oh, okay. Like, it's one of those things.
I
Sorry, it's
second that.
just my
I am
advice.
all
Yeah.
about the song. Put it on.
That's
Put
what I
it
put,
on
like,
and look at
so
people when they're happy and
So I put it
goofy.
on when my parents come in town and meet my in-laws. My parents are obviously Hispanic. My in-laws are not Hispanic. So it's like, my in-laws are like, oh, this is fun.
Mhm.
And my parents are like, oh, you like it? Yeah, we like it. Like it's just this weird little mix. So I
Yeah.
don't know. That's my little mix.
I think it's fun to watch. I don't have a lot of family to introduce my partner to. I often feel like he's lucky. He would be hit with like two really strange cultures coming together in the weirdest way because though my mother was Catholic, she did not follow some sort of strict religious upbringing or any of
She was
that
just like
nature.
normal.
She
But
was
I say normal as a
she
Catholic
was
who
so
was.
outside of what my
Yeah.
father even expected. So I think it was really like
She's Sicilian, you said? Or,
yeah, she really just did her
okay,
own
so
thing.
I assume her marrying a Armenian was not the traditional Sicilian
Oh
way.
no,
Yeah.
no. And I think honestly had my grandfather had passed when he was younger. So I think had he been alive it probably would have been a bigger issue. But my grandmother had 6 kids, single mom raising them. So
She's like, are you happy?
she worked.
You have her house? Great, bye.
Right.
Yeah.
Like she worked so much. I don't think she really even like
Did you ever, was she
nurtured that
back in
part of it.
Italy or?
No, she honestly was in Delray, Detroit. Met my grandfather there. They had moved on and out of the city because they felt like the city kind of ostracized them after a while. There was only a particular place that they could go to.
Why?
So they went more rural. And they
What
moved out.
was the?
I
because they were
just in
mixed,
Delray.
like
Delray was like a
interracial?
lot. Yeah, and honestly, Delray was like really defined. There were certain sectors of the city that you go in, much like boroughs, and you don't really deviate outside of that. So they found themselves
cool.
both deviating together, completely out of the city and more to a rural area. So That was awesome because it opened our ideas of like, okay, we don't just live in Michigan, in Southeast Detroit or Southeast Michigan, where it's crummy city areas. Not to say that the suburbs aren't beautiful there, but you have
So
to go a little ways out for the to
when we
see all
talk
the
about
nice things.
interracial, like what is an interracial couple in your mind? And the only reason I ask this, and I don't
Mhm.
want to get too heavy into this because it's like I'm not gonna say it's a pointless conversation, but it's like I think we have more important things to talk about, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well,
Like
I mean, to
how to
each
get
his
to
own.
Mars, how to get
Everybody's
yeah.
got their own
But my
opinion on
question
what
is,
they see it
I
as.
heard one time a person tell us, and this was when we were in DC, that an interracial couple is only a black person and a white person. That's it,
I just think that's hilarious.
right?
Just like my kids are half black, but black people say no, they're black. It's funny. I went to
Yeah,
the WIC office because when I had both my daughters, they were like, you don't have to be of a certain income bracket. All women get this. Go to the health
dude.
department,
Yeah,
go get milk and cheese. I was like, on it. Free. Thank you. And I went on two different occasions, and the same woman was working behind the counter. And when I filled out the form, I selected other and wrote the word mulatto because in the dictionary, if you look up what
oh
that word is, it is
yeah.
legitimately a white and black
But you
person
can't say that
mixed.
now anymore.
Whatever it was, I wrote it on the form.
They kicked you out.
No, the woman, she was like, she called us up. We're in the room, and she was like, so you identified those children as mixed, and I need you to write on the form that they're black. And I was like,
Why?
well, I'm their mom. And she was like, oh, I understand. But she's like, for census purposes, for any other purposes in life moving forward, you're going to want to write them as black.
Why?
And I thought to myself, like, this woman is crazy. Like, you're not even understanding that I had them and I'm not. You're not even recognize me. Like, I went through 17 hours of labor with that one. I went through 11 hours of
You're the
labor with that one. I
mom. I'm
actually
sorry.
birthed them
They're more
naturally.
me, if it's
Um,
anything. My God.
so it was really harsh for me to hear and see. And then I immediately, like, went on my Karen almost until I
When
went
it comes
back
to your kids, you're
home
allowed to.
and had a neighbor who I was, ranting to because I was pissed at the way that the lady had treated me. I thought she was being racist.
That is super
And my
racist.
friend just shed a little bit of perspective, and she was like, black folks have it really, really tough in this country. You are trying to understand by having an interracial relationship, and I appreciate you for that. You know what I mean? As a black woman, I love that. My neighbor
Wait,
was
wait.
amazing. My
She said
neighbor.
you're trying to understand, like you purposely chose a non-same race person to what? Better not be racist? What does that mean?
I think everyone has their own impression of things, and it's much to their
Oh, yeah.
disadvantage when they just assume and just not
I hear
ever
what you're
have
saying.
that, like, I wonder, so I ask, and now I know. You know
Mm,
what I mean? So it's like that comfortable assumption is really what she was giving me.
I gotcha.
To that extent, whatever it was worth, I
No, no,
appreciated it. It
yeah.
was perspective. You know what I mean? I'm always about whether it's different than me or not. I need to hear how
Yeah.
someone else thinks because
Yeah. No, I
now
didn't ask.
I
I didn't
think
ask
of
out of
my
malice. I genuinely was
value
curious because I'd never.
better, different, or
Yeah.
more.
I'd
You know what
never
I mean?
heard that kind of because it's again, I'm not in the same interracial relationship as you
Yeah.
are, but
Yeah.
but I never heard that kind of like, oh, as the whole story of her, why you would do that. Like, what was the reason for that?
Yeah, I don't the whatever she was trying to say behind it, I was trying to let her know I was frustrated because this black woman was not identifying um, that my kids were mixed, and I was trying to. More so to be accurate than anything else on government paperwork that I'm filling out. And she was really just kind of candid about like black folks in this country suffer. Like, put those kids down as black. You're a woman raising good black kids. You need to know that. You need to accept the fact that in this country, because those kids are mixed with brown, when a cop looks at them, they're black. When they go and interact poorly somewhere, someone is going to identify that as because they're black. She really kind of gave me a schooling to something that some of my black friends I never even got perspective like
Mm-hmm.
that from. And I appreciate it. It was amazing for me to hear her side of the story. We're still friends on Facebook, though we're not neighbors. But I really think it stopped my anger, and it made me see like
Was she an
she's
older woman?
probably, yeah, she's
Yeah.
probably been programmed through the years of like
Yeah.
watching what's come through those doors, and She's trying to make a difference in the one way that she can. It was outwardly offensive immediately to whoever she was saying it to,
Yeah.
and I was the right one to say it to because I didn't go off on her. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? I actually
You want
it
to understand
penetrated a
where it
little
came from.
bit
Yeah.
because I was like, oh, okay, I'm not just going to see things my way and I'm pissed because you didn't do what I wanted to do. Like it had some sort of greater good. I think racism should not be covered up. I think we're doing quite a good job of trying to erase the crummy things that we've done as a nation. I think that those things need to show where we've come from.
Yeah.
We need evolution to be present. We need to not follow rules that were created in 1773 because we as humans have evolved
1776.
so much.
Yeah.
1770 anything.
Yeah.
Like
No, that's right. Yeah.
we're at a period of time where we have learned so much more. We have so many more tools and resources. We are equipped with what we need as long as we go get it.
So then why go back?
I think that's what's frustrating is I think the younger folks don't want to go back and the older folks are just repelling. Like we just go back naturally. We just go back to
What do
like
you mean
all
go
we
back?
know.
Like to go back. I mean, when I say why go back, I mean like, look, we talked about it earlier, like the idea that now is much. Oh, do we have to go? Oh shit,
What time is it?
I have no idea. Well, we can wrap it up. Actually, maybe we'll stop. I'm
What
sorry.
time is it?
I don't know.
Oh, I told my partner 10.
Okay. Well,
I
so,
didn't tell you that though.
yeah.
So
No.
it's
Well,
my
we can
bad.
wrap it up if we need to.
Cool.
So, last thing I asked, you kind of talked about this earlier, was your can I live moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. You talked about the job thing. You
Well, I
mentioned
really,
closing doors.
yeah, I think I got confident in some of the tech skills that I was developing at the Science Center. And I thought to myself, like, is it wrong to choose something off the beaten path? Is it wrong to make a choice that's going to bring you to that question, can I live? Is it wrong to want to wake up with energy instead of like, I have to go do this?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think Can I Live is a giant umbrella that we can all put up
Yeah.
when it's time to understand our place in life. We're not all built for the same story. We all have something that's relevant. We all have a purpose. We should be on our path to find it. I love it when I meet folks that are on their path because I'm on my path. And together we make great friends because I don't have to hang out with you to be your friend and see you grow. I think it's amazing to do it from a distance
Mm-hmm.
sometimes too. I think that Can I Live moments bring us to like development, growth, to have a growth mindset. You have to question, can I live in a majority of the things that you're doing in life? Is this appropriate for what my lifestyle is? This might be appropriate for a giant sector of the
Mm-hmm.
world, but is it relevant to me? Is this going to make me wake with purpose? Is this going to make me want to continue life when everything else is sucking?
Yeah.
I think for me right now, it's tech that's doing it. I love it. It's growing, it's changing, it's doing that daily something's different sort of thing for me. I will stick with that for as long as I can.
Yeah, it's awesome.
I have daughters that are coding on programs right now, and I look at them and I'm like, if I knew how to do this at their age, like I would be a genius. I'd be making tons of money.
Don't sell your show short, because remember, it was you, Mary, who said, can I live? I'm not going to sell essential oils as a teacher. I'm going to go
Oh
and do
my
it. I
gosh.
mean, so you led them down this path, or you've given them the ability to, hey guys, code, because you understand the importance and, where the world's moving. So to me, if anything, like you've started them out, way ahead of,
Well, isn't that
Yeah.
how we do things?
Yeah.
We try.
Yeah.
Can I live? Can I live to try? Can
Yeah.
I live to get another moment to just do something different than I've already done and learned? When you've already done and learned something, how good is it to do that for your entire life? Are we really built to be that single-minded? Like
Yeah.
our brains are massively complex. They are built to be challenged daily. The average person is not doing that. Your brain matter will die if you're not using it. Why don't you understand that? So we've got to continue like the can I live moments need to translate into a majority of our paths in life.
Yeah.
It needs to be the beginning question.
I hope
for what we
people
do moving forward.
like you mentioned growing the dreads out. I started this business, this podcast,
Deviate.
just
do things.
I hope that taught people.
different.
Yeah. I hope that taught people planning is irrelevant. What
Yeah.
matters is, can you live? Because you might not. Who knows,
Can
right?
you be
Do some, yeah,
flexible enough to
yeah,
live?
and
Can you
yeah,
switch up what you're doing and the one thing that you've been doing enough to do something else quick enough
yep,
to not fail or
yep,
to when you feel failure not fall completely on your face?
yep.
Like I think that's a majority of it. We stay contained.
Or like what
We stay
matters, right?
doing the
What
same.
matters if you get laid off from your job? It's like, wait, does the world stop? Like, what really matters?
Mhm.
You talked about being locked in your house. Like everyone's got to look at themselves. You're right. Your kind
Yeah.
of live moment is when you're by yourself. And I love again when we'll end here was the idea when you said, when people said, so and so's my rock. I thought you were your rock.
Mhm.
I think a lot of people right now probably have to figure out like how hard can you be, because at
Yeah.
the end of the day it is up to you. And
Yeah.
when you want to find a partner or whatever, and if you're lucky enough to do that, or if that's what you want to do, you got to be capable of yourself.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
absolutely.
again, that's literally why I brought you on. I knew you'd be amazing, Mary. I know you got to get home. I know it's late, dude. Thank you
Thanks
so
for
much, Mary.
having
I
me.
appreciate it. Yes, ma'am.
I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
This
All
is
right.
a good time. This is not what I expected. So,
Thanks, Mary.
yeah, I'll come talk anytime. Let me know.
Bye, Mary.
Bye.